And we are back. OU softball, they're 4-0. It's expected, right? I don't think I should have expected anything less. But Oklahoma gets out of a weekend where they were tested. They won some games the way you would expect them to win. And it seems like they've gotten out of this pretty healthy. So today we're going to talk about the previous weekend for Oklahoma and what they got coming up this weekend. Today I'm joined by Andrew Smith. What's going on? How are you doing?
Great. How are you, man? Thanks for having me on.
I'm doing good. Appreciate you coming on. So I think we just got to dive right into it, right? You play Utah Valley, Duke, Washington, Long Beach State. Like I said, you're tested. You won a couple games early. I think this was a really good weekend for OU softball. In fact, there was a time where we thought maybe Oklahoma was actually might have a chance of losing that game. So just want to get your initial thoughts over the weekend, and then we'll kind of look at it game by game.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great weekend. Anytime you can go 4-0 in a weekend, that's all you can ask for, to be honest. This is the diamond sports in general. Winning any game, it doesn't matter the opponent, because the sport is just weird in that way. You got to be happy about. Now, there's sometimes you can look at a win and go, "Hey, we kind of squeaked one out there that maybe should have been a little closer than it should have been." But a win's a win, and you're just happy to come out clean with 4-0. But yeah, it's overall really really pleased with the grit and the fight that they showed when they did get tested, and two top 10 wins. Like that's and anytime you can get that in a weekend, the opening weekend where you don't exactly, it's your first time playing against other teams other than yourself. Um, in a while. So getting the opportunity to do that and coming out clean, that's really all you can ask for.
Yes, and one of the things that I took away from is Patty Gasso's going to play the freshmen a lot, and the freshmen are really good. And I think that's where we're going to start, right? Oklahoma plays Utah Valley. They get bases loaded, and Pickering, I mean, she homers one to left center and brings in 4 runs. And I think that's a lot of Oklahoma fans were pretty happy at that point. And you see the freshmen, they really showed out and they did their thing. I think you even, I'm trying to think of who it was that came in as a pinch hitter, but you saw him come up in clutch moments. So, I mean, looking at the Utah Valley game and looking at what some of those freshmen did, and kind of what you just saw from the pitching as well, because I think we saw a plethora of pitchers there. What were some of your takeaways from that game specifically in a 13-0 run rule win?
I think back to the midweek interview that Cassie Pickering gave this week. I thought it was really indicative of the mindset of the freshmen, especially. And because the question was like, "Hey, were you nervous or kind of coming in first at bat, whatever?" And she said, "I saw ball, thought swing. Once I swung, new home run." And just like that mindset of like nothing else matters. And so that like nothing else matters, and all that matters is the pitch that's coming to me right now. And that the ability to block out everything else, block out all noise, block out all nerves, just shows you the ability of Patty Gasso to recruit players that aren't afraid of moments, seek big moments, but also have the talent to do the thing in the moment. And that's just unbelievable. So as far as like the team goes in that run roll win, it was a really great performance. You get the opportunity to see some defense in that game. Get to see some good pitching, different pitchers. You get to see Peyton Monticelli come out and close it at the end of the game. So that was nice. But yeah, it's just like seeing some of the seniors come out with big bats. You got a bomb from Alyssa Brito, Kenzie Hansen in that game. So just to see them excited and kind of kick off the season with a run roll was really really cool.
Yeah, and then you look at it and you say Oklahoma used 3 pitchers compared to Utah Valley's 5. Oklahoma didn't need to use 3 pitchers, right? They just kinda were testing some things out, looking at the rotation, but, Utah Valley definitely needed all 5 pitchers that they put in there. So, sometimes you look at the box score and you see who played, and that's not, indicative of what actually happened in that game, but then Oklahoma has to go play, and I think this was a game that maybe scared some people, or was it Washington that scared some people? I'm trying to think back
It
to it.
was Washington that scared people during the game, but Duke was probably more thought of as far as the more challenging opponent
Mhm.
um, going into the games or into the weekend. But I mean, I thought it was a really well played game on both sides. I think Duke's pitcher came out and was hammering away at our offense and didn't show any fear. So I was really impressed with her right off. But you obviously see our offense like make adjustments as they do and get some runs across. So um, and then Kelly Maxwell also kind of showed, even told you in the mid game presser again, going back to that she was nervous in that game. So and you could see it. So just really good to see like them play a really quality opponent. I wouldn't quite say they were tested in the same way that they were tested against Washington, but I think like anytime it's kind of like iron sharpens iron. Like it may not have been the same quality of iron, but like they still had to play a really good game to come out with the win in that game. So it was again, it's really great to see. Get a great win on your resume early. Obviously we hope to not have to need the resume for seeding later, but if you do, then that's good to have that there. So
Yeah, and I mean, let's just move to Washington, right? So, that was a late start in terms of just people being able to watch that game, 8:30 PM here centrally. Uh, Oklahoma, they get 2 in the first. Washington comes out in the second, hits 3, and they hold a lead on Oklahoma until the top of the 6th. So for me, watching Oklahoma be down for that long is that's not normal, or at least it doesn't feel normal. And so again, tested. They weren't the bats just were not hitting well in that game. Washington, I felt like played a pretty good game. So I feel like I feel like there's a lot you can take from this Washington game. Come home, practice a little bit before you go out to California. So, I mean, looking at this Washington game, what is something you think Oklahoma could take away from this game and try to improve on going into, I think, just the rest of the season?
I think grit. Grit is the word for me that sticks out. That they were gritty and didn't just go, oh, we're down, it's late. This team as a whole, obviously, like not all of them, but like this team as a whole has kind of shown that being down late doesn't really matter, no matter how many the runs. I think back to the Clemson series last year, or Texas during the season last year, or Oklahoma State. They don't give up and they continue to fight. So that to me is like what really stands out, that hasn't gone away. Not that that's surprising, but it's still nice to see this unit as a whole still shows that same characteristic. I really wasn't nervous during that game. You just kind of feel like they'll find a way to give themselves a chance. Um, and I saw some people. I got in this one interaction on Twitter that Nicole May gave up 3 runs, and all of a sudden, I told you she wasn't elite. I was like, come on, get out of here. Like Washington's got a good squad. Like credit to them. Like there's maybe a handful of teams in the entire country that Nicole May wouldn't be the ace on. And do aces occasionally give up runs? Yes, they do. Just because they run into a couple of runs here and there doesn't mean they're not elite. Now, and it's also again early season. The pitchers are still knocking off some rust too, so like give them a chance. But yeah, it was really fun, and honestly, I think the biggest thing for me was the fact that you get a new player on the team, a transfer in who's a senior that comes up with the clutch hit. That one that wasn't particularly known for their bat at their previous university, right? So now she showed she has a stick in the fall. She played really well offensively over the fall, but over the course of seasons, she hasn't really shown that she's a offensive force. So to come off the bench cold in a massive moment to come up with an RBI, Credit to Riley Ludlam. Like that was absolutely fantastic. Super excited to see what she does with the opportunities that she's given, and just absolutely wonderful to see her take that opportunity when given and do something with it.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Oklahoma played Washington last year, and I think Washington played Oklahoma close last year in softball too.
Yeah, no, they did, and I think there's certain programs and certain coaches that have proven that with their scouting, they know how to attack an offense like ours. Now, for me, like I think it's pretty obvious at this point to all the coaches. So I'm not like saying anything new. I think if you have a left to right moving ball, that generally, and if you can do that inside and outside, if you have a pitcher that can pitch that same left to right moving ball inside and outside, that generally gives Oklahoma trouble. Now, does that mean it gives them trouble enough that they're not going to score more runs than you? Not always, right? But that generally does induce a lot of pop ups, weak contact, occasionally a strikeout. So those types of pitchers have generally been the one kind of thorn in the side, if you will, of this offense. I think back to Haley Dulcini, Sandercock at times. But so that any lefty that pitches left to right has sometimes given us some issues. That's why I think Washington went with the lefty versus the righty in that game, and then came in with the righty and kind of like mixed things up. So like it takes, and with the elite adjustments that Oklahoma's offense has shown that they're able to make in game, you have to have two, sometimes three pitchers in a single game just to give them different looks so they don't have time to adjust in that game. You know, looking back to the Baylor game last year, I think it was the loss that we had with Baylor, that they pitched two really great pitchers and was able to squeak out a win. Baylor last year, or was it 2 years
it was
ago?
Baylor. We lost 3-4 in Waco.
Yeah.
Yep.
But then we also lost 1-0 Baylor the previous year as well with the same thing. So it's that kind of offensive attack from a defensive perspective that you have to have. Like, hey, we're going to attack the quote unquote weakness of this offense and see if they're willing to help us out. But the big kicker is you have to throw strikes. If you're not in the strike zone, this offense is going to make you throw strikes. And then when you are throwing strikes, then they're going to smack it. So credit to the Washington staff. They did a really great job. Unfortunately for them, it wasn't quite good enough, but I think they played a really great game. And I think Washington showed there was a lot of question marks about Washington coming into this year for me personally. I think they checked a lot of those off. So I'm glad to see. I like that program. I'm happy to see that they didn't fall off as far as I thought they might. So really, really cool to see. So hoping that Pac-12 is a little bit more competitive than projected. So, but yeah, no, I think it was a really good win for Oklahoma. You're probably going to see a couple more of those, especially early on as the offense starts to figure it out. You know, and obviously in that game too, we also had 3 errors, which we haven't had 3 errors in a game in a really long time. So really uncharacteristic, but again, not enough for us. They'll figure it out. So I'm not really worried about it. But and honestly, even too, like even a lot, and it's so funny with this team, especially with the win streak now. Any loss, any single loss, the sky is now falling. Oklahoma's done, and that's kind of the world we live in, and that's honestly kind of really cool. Because we get to experience the highs and lows of every single game, every single close game. It's like, oh, we're gonna lose the win streak. But then if they lose one game, you know, they go 4-1 this weekend, like they're still gonna be number one, probably. And if they aren't, who cares? Like they're gonna be number one at the end of the season, so it doesn't
There will
really
be
matter.
one voter that goes, you know what? I want to take the number 1 spot away.
I was actually surprised. I was very surprised that there wasn't a couple of teams who didn't vote for Texas or Tennessee for number 1. Just because we played quote unquote okay this weekend, and Tennessee went on the road and beat Baylor twice. Texas beat UCLA, and looked really good. So I was kind of surprised there wasn't a couple of people that voted them number one, either one number one. I wouldn't have personally, but I would have understood it if someone thought that way. But yeah, those two teams I think were kind of diverting a little bit. But like I think Texas and Tennessee both. I think Tennessee is better than maybe some people thought they would be, and I think Texas is as advertised and maybe even better.
Don't say that. Nobody likes Mike White's team.
Look, nobody likes it. Nobody. I don't like saying Texas is going to be good or will be good. I certainly don't like saying a Mike White team is going to be coach team is going to be good. But one has to recognize the facts.
I'll recognize the facts and say, you know what, Mike White, he ain't going to get it done. So.
Oh, trust me. When I had an opportunity to be in the presser last year and be the one that asked him a question that went viral, his response went viral, like was perfection for me, chef's kiss. Because no one else was going to ask the question. No, like literally no one was going to ask the question. And it blew my mind that I was the sixth question in that press conference and the first one to bring it up. But like, I do not like him. It's not unknown that I do not like him. Now, but I do respect that his teams generally play well.
He's
I don't like him personally.
He's a good coach. He's just.
So it's so weird.
I don't think he's a
because,
good
like, is
person.
he a really good coach? Yes, but there's a caveat there because he's a great pitching coach even still too. But again, a caveat because he pitches pitchers too far and then beyond when they're injured. So like I hesitate to say great or good because like he takes things beyond health for the sake of winning. And I don't think that's good. So it's like I don't like calling him that, but his teams do consistently seem to be towards the upper echelon of play. But and kids do love playing for him and they want to when they're hurt, which I get, but at the same time too, like there's a certain level. It's like, look, I have to look out for your health and safety as a human being for the rest of your life. And I just don't agree with it. Like you could see 2 years ago, Haley Dulcini is crying in the dugout because she's in so much pain, and he continues to throw her out there because that's all they had. Anyway,
some kids just want to go out there and play hurt, but you got to be the person that steps up and tells them, "Hey, can't do it."
Yep,
got to take responsibility. So, yes, went back and looked it up. Oklahoma, they beat Washington 5-4 last year. So, Washington's given Oklahoma some headaches. So, that might be something that we have to watch. And maybe in the World Series is a matchup with Washington. But you take that win and then you move on to Long Beach State. Again, at the end of the second, it was tied 3-3. But at that point, there was really no worry because Oklahoma wins that one 11-3. So, another good win. You get the 4-0. You leave Mexico and you start looking forward to what's going to be in California, but there was some other news in Mexico. Jordy Ball gets hurt, I believe. Now, did Florida State play Charlotte in Mexico, or was that somewhere else?
No, that was at Florida State.
Okay, because I think
they were hosting their own tournament.
Yeah, we got to talk about that, right? Because
we do, absolutely.
Charlotte.
Now, real quickly, really, really, really hate the Jordy Ball news. That just sucks for her personally. I know what it's like to be injured as an athlete. It's absolutely awful to basically miss a season. It's horrendous. Never want to see that. Feel awful for her. Feel awful for the softball community as a whole because softball's better when she's in it. So prayers to Jordy, prayers to her family and everything. So that's just really, really sad. But she's also the ultimate competitor, so she's going to attack her rehab and come back stronger than ever. So not really concerned about her future because I know she's going to do the right things and take care of herself. But it really is unfortunate to see that loss of season. And honestly, unfortunately, I think that's a big, big blow to Nebraska as a whole. So
I mean, there was a lot of hope that maybe Jordy Ball could get that program going in the right direction, and that there might.
They almost beat Oklahoma State last year in regionals. So like they're not a bad squad. But when you have a loss like that, we'll see what happens to them and how long it takes them to recover as a team. and how much they're able to improve.
I
So,
mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I felt like Jordy Ball was going to be the make or break to that team getting to the World Series.
oh no, absolutely, and I think even if they had beaten Oklahoma State, they weren't making it to the World Series last year. So like it was certainly they needed something, someone to step up and and whether it be the portal or freshman coming in or whatever, to be able to take further steps forward. So it'll be interesting to see how they're able to mitigate the loss of her. Um, and I think she was going to hit as well. So like that's another bat in the lineup as well gone. So really unfortunate to see, but never want to see any athlete get hurt, but especially one that's such a high profile athlete as far as the entire sport and elevates the sport, which we're all trying to elevate because women's sports is amazing. So
100%. Now, Charlotte, Florida State.
Yeah, that was a really fun game. That was a really, really fun game if you got a chance to watch it. Extra innings. It made. I literally said this in a space I think the other day. Like after that game, I was like, man, this game makes me want all softball games to be 9 innings because this is fun. Um, so yeah, that was a really fun game. But then Florida State came back and I think run rolled them, or very nearly.
Blanked them pretty
This is
much.
like obliterated
11
the next game. So, and I said this during the game. I was like, this game is not an indictment of Florida State. This is a statement game for Charlotte. Has little to nothing to do with Florida State. I think Charlotte's a very solid team. Florida State's just not having a very good game, but that doesn't mean they're not quality. Again, going back to Diamond Sports, those games can happen, and they're a good enough
happened to
team
Oklahoma.
Yeah, it can, and that's what I'm saying. Like they're a good enough team that they were still able to go extra innings and give themselves chances to win against a solid squad. But then responded very appropriately. So very excited to see what both those teams are able to do this year. I mean, I think there's a lot of questions coming in for Florida State with losing, Sandercock and a couple other pieces. So and I think no one has any questions about their leadership and their culture. I think Lonnie's a great coach. Really a big fan of hers personally. So I don't think that game was a massive indictment, but it was a really fun game to watch. It was a really fun game on opening weekend. And it's always great to see a program get their first top 5 win. So it's really, really cool to see.
Yes. Now, looking into this next week, Oklahoma going to not California. I keep saying California. I don't know why I keep saying California. They did that last year. They're going to Louisiana. And
they're going back to California for Mary Nutter.
Maybe that's what I was looking at. I was looking at one. I think I was looking maybe a little bit ahead. But they got the Cowgirl Challenge this week. Going to Louisiana. They got Central Arkansas, McNeese State, Lamar, McNeese State again, and Central Arkansas. So this looks like a weekend where you look at it and go, hey, this should be a really easy week for Oklahoma. You really should not learn anything about this team this week, other than maybe if they
you'd hope.
You hope.
Now, I will say that Central Arkansas very nearly beat Alabama in regionals last year. Now, their star pitcher ends up at Alabama, so they did lose some pieces for sure. But I do think highly of that program. I think that they're not quite, they're going to feel those losses of those players that they had. But if they had kept those, then that might be a couple of interesting games. So I agree with you. We shouldn't learn that much about Oklahoma. Oklahoma should roll through these games. That's not to like down the other programs or anything, but just like Oklahoma's elite, and there's not many teams in the country that are even going to kind of give them a game. So you look to see the offense kind of get on track in a couple of healthy number of run rolls this week. But Clearwater's going on right now, which has already induced a couple of interesting games. Kentucky beat North Carolina after going up 6-0, losing the lead, gaining it back, losing it again, and gaining it back, and winning 12-10. So a lot of high quality softball. Even though Oklahoma's not playing high quality opponents, there's a lot of high quality softball going on this weekend. So I think Texas plays um, a couple of really great games this weekend. Stanford, I think they play Stanford. UCLA plays Stanford. Tennessee, I think Texas and Tennessee get together this weekend, so that's going to be a great match. I think we're going to learn a lot about the top, probably outside of Oklahoma. We're probably going to learn a lot about the top 10 in the country via Clearwater this weekend.
Yeah. Now I'm looking at the preview for this weekend. Obviously, Central Arkansas not that good, coming in 1-4. McNeese State though 4-1. Do you think there is the potential that a 4-1 McNeese State could cause Oklahoma any trouble, or is it just, hey, like Oklahoma's better than these teams, clear cutting above? We shouldn't see a Charlotte State type of scenario.
If I'm not mistaken, McNeese State was either a tournament team last year or a borderline tournament team last year. So they're not awful by any stretch. Um, and generally, teams, when they play Oklahoma, play their best game. So would I be surprised to see them play very well against Oklahoma? No. Would I be surprised if that by the end of the game is close? Probably a little bit. But would I like expect to run roll that game? Probably not. Um, so I mean, but and and if even if that is close, right? Does that mean like, oh, we should worry about Oklahoma? They've played a couple of close games. McNeese State, like, no, absolutely not. So, but I think that um, there's opportunity to learn from every game. We're gonna play a decent quality opponent. It's gonna be interesting to see what pitcher Patty chooses to use. We've used, I think, 5 this year so
Yeah,
far.
we've used Dill, Maxwell,
Everybody but SJ,
A. Um, who else did we play? I know.
Monticelli, and Keeney.
Yes.
So everybody but SJ. So I would probably expect to see SJ get some run this weekend. I would expect to see Deal get some more run. Give her a chance to bounce back after that her last outing. Um, and for those of you who think that Patty may have lost confidence in Deal or whatever because she pulled her after 3 runs, I don't think so at all. I think she proved her worth last year in Stillwater. I was there for that game. That girl was nails. Um, so I wouldn't really worry too much about it. And especially these early games, we know Patty likes to test people out and give them opportunities and try different lineups and see how it goes. So if games are closer than we might think, or maybe we're not scoring as many runs, we go through this every year. Like, oh, we only scored 4 runs that game, and that we're in a very good opponent. Well, did we look at the lineup? Maybe Patty was testing things out and changed things up and played different players and maybe gave somebody some rest, or and it's still early season, so uh, we do this song and dance every year. Um, Oklahoma fans are so used to excellence. Go back to the Nicole May thing, like, oh, she gave a couple runs up, like, not as good as everybody says she is. Like, no, that's just the way the sport goes. Like, the sport is people are going to score, people are going to make errors, people are going to get hits in clutch moments. That's just the way it goes, and that's the beauty of the game, and that's why we keep playing the games.
Yeah. Now you were right. McNeese State and Central Arkansas both earned trips to the tournament last year. UCA was eliminated in Tuscaloosa, and then McNeese State was eliminated in Seattle. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about, which was I think a big question for a lot of people going into this weekend, was shortstop. I think Tiara Jennings played really well. I think she did have one error though. I think, right, or was it 2?
I don't remember her having an error.
I think, didn't she? I thought she had at least one.
She may have had one, but I thought, like, there was, and I tweeted about this. There were so many plays that she made look routine that were absolutely not routine. Like, I remember one specifically, like, she was coming in on play, and the ball took a hop to her left, and she just went whoop, and like that does not just happen, right? Like, you practice that kind of stuff and are prepared for it, and you're in the position for that. And it looked so easy, and it was so easy. Like, even the commentary team just blew by it and didn't say anything. Like there wasn't even a tweet about it from the OU softball. Like, hey, great to play by Tiare. Like that play is elite. And there were several of those this weekend that I saw from her that, and then she made some great range with quick release and got some plays. So even if she had an error, I'm not really worried about it. Like Grace had errors at times. Um, so I thought she played a really, really high quality shortstop, and I'm not worried about the shortstops for this season.
And I'm looking at it and I'm saying, going into this weekend, I think Maxwell probably is your best pitcher coming in 2-0 in her 2 appearances. She logged 7.2 scoreless innings. So I think Maxwell's probably your best pitcher coming into this week. And then Pickering, obviously leading the team right now in batting percentage. You got to love it.
Maybe this is the contrarian in me. I think Carly Keeney also has a say in that. Like she came in the Long Beach State game and sat down like 11 in a row. And also remembering that Keeney didn't get a fall. So giving her some time to kind of get things settled and everything else. But I mean, obviously, Kelly Maxwell's a multiple-time All-American, so of course she's probably going to be your best. But I think we have 4 girls on this team that are legitimate aces. Depending on where they're at in the country, and Kirsten Deal probably has the most ground to make up in that regard, but she's still just a sophomore. But I think she has that kind of stuff, and I also think being on the same team with Kelly Maxwell and having similar stuff, I think it's going to do wonders for her. But I'm really, really excited to see what the depth like having 6 pitchers is just stupid. But I really love that because we've proven time and time again that you can't get through a season anymore these days with just 1 or even 2 pitchers. Like you can only get through short windows of the season with 2 pitchers. You really need 3 or more. So to have 6 is just an abundance of wealth, and I'm really, really excited to see how not only they manage it, but how the girls are able to stay fresh and then take advantage of the opportunities when they get given them.
Okay. Love to hear it. All right. Anything else before we head out for the week to watch some softball?
Oh man, just watch in any way you can. Stream it, watch
It's
it on
on
TV.
ESPN Plus.
Go to a bar. It's on ESPN Plus. So if you've gotten that for the OU before, you've got access to it. There's a discount code through the Big East. If you want Flow to watch Mary Nutter for $14.99 for the month. I know we've already lost a tournament already, but I think there's still 2 tournaments to go on Flow. So I think it's absolutely worth it. The content's not great, but you get to watch, and you get to support softball, and those are that are supporting softball. So if it's on ESPN like it is this weekend, Clearwater, go to a bar, go to a restaurant, ask them, put on softball. I guarantee you're probably going to have a conversation about softball because you asked to put that on and somebody else is going to start talking about it. And it's going to be awesome.
Going to be great. It's going to be a great week. All right. Andrew, where can people find you at on Twitter?
On Twitter at Sooner Soup Guy.
All right. Well, appreciate y'all tuning in. If you guys haven't already, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. We'd love to have you guys continue to be a part of it. We're trying to put these out at least once a week, but sometimes schedules. I have a feeling we're going to have at least one week where we probably miss one, but we're going to continue to try to bring on other people, bring in different perspectives, use a bunch of different looks, because we all know I'm not the most experienced when it comes to softball. Football is my specialty, but we're going to continue to try to bring you guys as much coverage as possible. But again, hit that like, hit the subscribe button. YouTube wants you guys to watch one of these 2 videos, so make sure you tune in.